Good evening. Jimmy here in Chicago. Hope everybody's doing well. I want to thank everybody for supporting and watching my channel. I appreciate it. Please share with your friends. I always enjoy reading your comments. And don't be afraid to donate. For any donation I get, you will get in return a Chicago outfit custom t-shirt with your favorite wise guy on there, or you can get an 8x10 photo, framed or unframed, of your favorite wise guy. I think that's a pretty good idea. Um, as you guys know, I've been going to trials for going back to the early 1990s, and we're going to talk about some other trials, non-outfit related, that I think you'll find interesting. Now, soon I will be releasing the video I did on the Mike Madigan trial. I actually went to the Michael Madigan trial. I was there probably 6-7 days. I caught closing arguments. I saw when Michael Madigan took the stand in his own defense, which I thought he came across pretty well. I also seen the government's informant corrupt Alderman Danny Solis, who wore a wire against Michael Madigan. I seen his testimony. And like most defendants that are indicted at the Dirksen Federal Building, Michael Madigan beat most of the charges. He was convicted on 5 accounts. He's probably looking at about 4 or 5 years in prison, in jail. And I'm sure they're going to hit him in the pocketbook with fines and restitutions. And then his right-hand man, the guy on the right, Mike McGurn, the co-defendant, he was basically Michael Madigan's most trusted ally, his right-hand man, his underboss, if you will. And the jury hung on the charges against him. And to everybody's surprise, the judge dismissed all charges, and Mike McGurn walked out of the Dirksen Federal Building a free man. Now, it's very rare that any defendant in a major federal trial walks out of that building. The only one I could think of was Alderman Burke, Alderman Ed Burke. His right-hand man was acquitted as well. So those are the only 2 guys you'll ever see that'll walk free from the Dirksen Federal Building. That's how powerful the government is. So we're going to talk about the Michael Madigan trial. I'll be releasing that pretty soon. I'm also going to share with you some funny stories, some interesting stories when I used to work at Capri in Berwyn. That was the original, one of the best mom-and-pop neighborhood Italian restaurants in the city of Chicago. I used to valet park cars there, so you can imagine all the wise guys, their families, their associates, their girlfriends, a lot of professional athletes, VIPs, the who's who of Chicago used to go to this little restaurant. So I'm going to share some stories with you about that. I'm also going to do I'm working on a story about Gus and his brother Sam Alex. Now, as we all know, in Chicago, there's a lot of Greeks, right? And the Greeks done really well in Chicago. They're good people. They work hard. They go to church. They usually stick together. And most of the old guys made fortunes in the restaurant business. We're going to do a story about Gus and Sam Alex, 2 of the highest ranking members of the Chicago outfit, top brass guys, right under Paul Ricca, Tony Accardo, Iupa. But because they were Greek, they couldn't be made men. But the 2 brothers alone back then made $20 to $30 million. Gus Alex and his brother helped thousands of Greek men get into business. They also donated a lot of money to St. Nick's Church on the south side. But Gus Alex, as we all know, was the political fixer. He controlled all your state officials, your aldermen, some congressmen, some senators. He was good friends with Spiro Agnew. Agnew was the vice president of Nixon. He also controlled all the Chicago mob's money through their Swiss bank accounts. So that's the kind of power and trust that the outfit leaders had in Sam and Gus Alex. These guys go back to the Al Capone gang. As you all know, Gus Alex was the very first trial. I'll never forget it. Back in 1992, he was 76 years old. That's a picture of him walking into the Dirksen Federal Building. So we're going to do a nice story on the Alex brothers. I'm also going to release a story on the legend Chicago cop / mob guy Bill Hanhart. Bill Hanhart was the highest ranking police official in the city of Chicago. This guy was a legend, policeman, detective, unbelievable stories about shootouts and chases and his experience, third largest city, one of the most violent cities in America. But why he was a super cop, Bill Hanhart was also running a very sophisticated multi-million-dollar jewelry ring in the Midwest. Bill Hanhart eventually got indicted along with his co-defendants, so we're going to do a nice story on Bill Hanhart. But let's get into it. The vast majority of the federal trials that I go to, those are the best, are the Dirksen Federal. That's downtown on Jackson State. You can easily take the bus or train there. Drops you off right in front. I've also been to probably 12 to 15 state trials at the notorious Cook County building, right there on 26th in California. You definitely don't want to go there. I've been to a few trials at DuPage County. And aside from traffic tickets, I've been to the Bridgeview Courthouse for a trial as well. And that's what we're going to talk about today. A murder trial that was held at the Bridgeview Courthouse. Now, this is on the southwest side of Chicago, not too far from Midway Airport, right in a little industrial park off of 95th in Harlem, right near mobbed up strip club Polecats. There's also a great little Greek bar there, Greek bar restaurant, Les Brothers, and now the new Prime Time. I definitely check out those places if you're ever in that area. But I used to call this place the Taj Mahal, right? Because they made so much money just on traffic court alone, not counting criminal cases. Not a great place to go. The parking lot is kind of far. You got to walk all the way from the parking lot to the front door. I can't even imagine what it must be like for an older person. 90% of the people that work here are all slobs, unprofessional, your typical lazy Cook County employee waiting on their pension. Very rude to you, very ignorant. Not everybody there, but most of them there. But it was at this place in 2010, going back to 2010, I went to the trial of Allan Kustok. He murdered his wife, Anita, or they used to call her Jeannie Kustok. Now, these two were married for over 30 years. I think 34, 35 years. And they had a great life. I think Jeannie was getting ready to take her real estate test. Her husband was a successful traveling salesman. They had two really beautiful, successful children. Here's his daughter, Sarah Kustok. You can see she's pretty easy on the eyes. She actually became a sports reporter here in Chicago and then was a sports reporter for the Brooklyn Nets. Not sure if any of you remember her, but she was on the scene quite a bit. I've seen her in court. I've also seen her at sporting events and out and about in the city of Chicago. There's her on the left walking in to the courtroom at the Bridgeview Courthouse. So she done really well for herself, right? Also, her younger brother is doing really well for himself. The guy's a stud. He was a quarterback for Northwestern Wildcats. He went to Northwestern University in Evanston. Allan Kustok was a traveling salesman. I think he sold medical equipment, maybe pharmaceutical. As we all know, that's a really successful career because you get to travel, You get to meet a lot of doctors. And it's really not selling. You're more like a consultant. It's more like taking orders. And imagine the money you can make in pharmaceutical or medical equipment. So that's what he was doing. Nice family. They had a beautiful home in Orland Park, southwest suburbs. Now, I'm not a fan of the southwest side. Back in my day, it was a pretty cool place to grow up. But now, if you drive from, say, Archer in Harlem all the way south to 159th in Harlem, past Summit, Bridgeview, Burbank, Hickory Hills, Palos, Oak Lawn, Orland, etc., it's all Arabics. Now, nothing to my Muslim buddies, Mudhubba, to all of you guys, but it's 80% Arabic now. It was never like that. So you can see they had a nice home. And while Mr. Kustok was traveling, and I know what it's like. I'm a traveling salesman myself. Sometimes those hotel rooms get a little sick, get a little old, you get lonely, going out to dinners, you're away from home, wining and dining. So he started having affairs. And he had a girlfriend. She came in court and testified about the affair. He also had a mistress. So this guy was juggling women. We're going to talk about how one of the girls testified that she actually met him down on Rush Street, which is the Viagra Triangle. She was a Gold Coast realtor. She testified that Allan Kustok wined and dined her over like 3-4 days. They kind of made a joke that he resembled Bill Clinton. Now, I don't know. What do you guys think? A lot of girls think Bill Clinton was handsome, but do you think he resembles Allan Kustok? Maybe a little bit. So here's this married man who already has a girlfriend. He's out on Rush Street. As we all know, there's a lot of beautiful women on Rush Street. And he meets this realtor. And he comes on to her. They have lunch. And fast forward, her friend called her and said, "Hey, did you hear about what happened to the guy that looks like Clinton?" What happened in 2010, there was only 2 people in the house. Now, I went to the closing arguments, right? And as I mentioned before, sometimes the opening and the closing are the best part of the trial. There was only 2 people at that house in Orland Park in 2010. And Allan Kustok shot his wife right in the face with a .357 Magnum. As we all know, that's a big gun. That's like a cannon. So he shoots and kills his wife. He doesn't try to perform CPR. He doesn't even call 911. He waits about an hour, drives to the ER room, and actually carries his dead, bloody wife into the ER, shocking the nurses, doctors, and hospital staff. The nurse testified in her 35 years of nursing, she never once ever seen anybody carry a dead woman, that they actually walked him into the ER. And when the nurse was asking him questions, he wasn't really giving good answers. The nurse also testified that when Kustok first got there, that his emotions ranged. He went from sobbing to anxiously punching a wall. When she asked him, "Why didn't you call the paramedics? Why didn't you call 911?" He said he didn't want the comment associated with the police and the paramedics. Now, what does that mean? What kind of answer is that? Allan Kustok also said that the reason he didn't call an ambulance to the couple's expensive Orland Park home is because he didn't want the commotion that first responders would bring. I mean, he was worried about what the neighbors would think if they saw an ambulance. That's what kind of reason he gave for not even calling 911, waiting an hour, and then carries her dead body into the ER. That's what kind of guy we're talking about here. Now, here's a photo of his kids, right? As I mentioned, Sarah Kustok, a successful sports reporter, and her son, her brother, Northwestern graduate football player, Zach. Now, obviously, these two are very close. They were close during the trial, but they had different opinions. Zach knew his father killed his mother, probably didn't understand why, and wanted nothing to do with his dad. Sarah, on the other hand, supported her father and just couldn't believe that he would kill her mother, his wife. After 34 years of marriage, she actually testified on the stand. Pretty neat, though. Pretty interesting how they remain close. The son wanted nothing to do with the father, and the daughter believed his innocence.
In this case, working at the morgue, my first thought was that all of those people had the opportunity to go to the emergency room first to see if their life would be saved. He never gave his wife, Jeannie, that opportunity.
Bed with a gunshot wound to her head. With his voice breaking up, Kustok said, quote, "I wanted to be with her as long as I could because once I gave her up, I knew I would never have that opportunity again."
Over the years, it finally took a toll on him where he wanted everybody to hear what went through his mind that morning.
It was the morning of September 29th, 2010, when prosecutors say Kustok took a .357 Magnum and shot his wife in the face. After a 4-week trial, it took a jury less than 2 hours to find Kustok guilty, a verdict Judge Hines says was the correct one. Prosecutors say Kustok was motivated by his lifestyle that included extramarital affairs.
He was done with the life that he had with her, and he saw no other way out. And his way out was to end her life.
Sarah Kustok sat in court with her hands folded as she listened to her aunt give an emotional statement. Then Sarah closed her eyes when her father spoke.
I don't want to speak for Sarah, but I think her presence here today speaks volumes about how she supports her father.
Sarah Kustok's older brother, Zach, was not at the courthouse today. During the trial, he was not supportive of his father. Allan Kustok plans to appeal. Live at the Bridgeview Courthouse, Sarah Schulte, ABC 7.
He has no chance on appeal. But you never know. They are letting a lot of people out. So that's it. That's the murder, the senseless murder of a man who had it all, right? Great job. Beautiful, successful kids. Nice home. Good life, right? Rather than get a divorce because of his affairs, he shoots his wife in her face. Never calls 911, waits an hour, and then carries her deadless body into the ER room, shows no remorse, and still denies his involvement today. Hopefully, he'll make amends with the man upstairs. But that's what kills me. A lot of these defendants, they show absolutely no remorse. So I don't feel sorry for him. I do feel sorry for his kids, and I feel sorry for her family. Her mom. If you like my Chicago mob trial stories, hit the like button, subscribe, Share with your friends. Don't be afraid to donate. Check out my friend Mary Frangello's book, Lovers, Liars, and Clowns. As I mentioned earlier, I got some new stories I'm going to drop you guys are going to love. But I forgot to mention this scumbag here, Kevin Mathewson. This guy is a Second Amendment, NRA, far right-winger, leader of the Kenosha militia, and a real troublemaker. He's also a bully. And I'm going to talk about some of the corruption and racism that's going on in Kenosha, Wisconsin. If this man here, Kevin Mathewson, were to try any of his bullshit in the city of Chicago, especially in neighborhoods like Cicero, Taylor Street, Elmwood Park, Melrose Park, this guy'd be in a lot of trouble. So stay tuned. I'm going to destroy and expose this guy. Everybody have a great week. I appreciate it. Look forward to your comments. And for you haters out there, get off your porn sites, put out the fucking cigarettes, and take the old lady to Portillo's, will you? Ciao.